All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Raluca, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about 3D web cartography. So I work as a product engineer at Esri in a team that develops an API called RTS API for JavaScript. And this is basically a tool for developers to create visualizations in 2D and 3D. And my work is mainly focused on the 3D side. I studied cartography in an international cartography master in Munich, Vienna, and Dresden. It was like a collaboration. And today, what I actually want to talk to you a little bit about is a side project that I've started called State of the Art in 3D Web Cartography. So this is basically a website that I started. And my goal with this was that there are so many visualizations in 3D, but there is like no overall classification of these visualizations. So I started putting up this website, and it's just a draft. So it's not published online yet, but I plan to do so by the end of the year. And I mainly have here like a classification from the technical perspective, but I also have a classification that shows like the use cases where 3D can be used best. So let's take, for example, urban maps. I have a little definition here, like some characteristics and code samples that I'm planning to add. I don't really have them here yet. And I plan to add like with all sorts of APIs and tools just to see like what is actually out there. So this is kind of mainly my goal. And today I'm going to be talking to you about urban maps and artistic maps. I would love to tackle on all these topics, but the time is too limited. So let's start with urban maps. And when we think about urban maps, so basically maps of the city environments, in 3D, we can have like very realistic visualizations. So, so for example, here I have a scene of Frankfurt, and this is what we call an integrated mesh. So it's basically data that has been obtained by scanning the city. It's very realistic. Someone who knows San Francisco will recognize immediately these skyscrapers. And what I want to show you is that you can create, like, depending on the message you want to send, you can create such a visualization and annotate like buildings, for example, enriching all this data with more information. Or here I have walking time to the to the Frankfurt Cathedral. So basically, it's very powerful, and it depends a lot on the message that you want to send. Then in 3D, we also have cartographic visualization. So in this case, for example, I have the city of San Francisco, and each building has information on the height, the construction year, and I am using that information. So if I click on a building, you can see the height, when it was built, and what kind of use it has. And I can use that information to actually create a render and render that data based on that information. So it's a data-driven visualization. So this is also something that is very powerful that you can do in 3D. And then my next example is what I like to call like a more abstract or like an artistic visualization. So we're going to take the previous visualization of San Francisco, and looking at these buildings, I'm going to change the coloring. So I'm in the Esri world, we call this a simple renderer. I'm going to visualize all of them with a very transparent light gray. I'll be adding edges to show the outlines of the 3D geometry of the buildings. And in the RTS API for JavaScript, we have such a feature called sketch edges, which renders those edges as if they would be hand-drawn. And I'm going to be removing the background, and now you can see them. It's almost as if this scene was hand-drawn, but you can actually navigate in it. And the last step would be adding this image in the background that makes it look like it's an old paper. So yeah, basically you have all this range of visualizations that you can do in 3D, and it's up to you to decide whatever works for the message that you want to send. So now while we're at the artistic part, let's go further on with a topic that I really like. I called it artistic maps. And an example that I want to show you is a type of maps that I call low-poly maps. And the low-poly term comes from computer graphics and gaming. And it's basically rendering the symbols with very little polygons, like very few polygons. And on this terrain here, like you can see the triangles that make up the terrain. And I find this a very nice visual style. It's very playful. I've decided to use it in this map for a touristic map of a ski resort. And I've added a little bit of gimmicks, like you can, for example, fly this plane. You can let a bit of snow rolling. So it really kind of puts you in this atmosphere. But then on the other hand, the maps also provide information about whether the ski slopes are open or not. And yeah, it's basically like a touristic map that has this element of playfulness to kind of like invite you to discover it. And I really like this topic. I didn't fully investigate. I wrote a little blog post about it, and I kind of played around to make other maps. Another example, again, from this area of influenced quite a bit by games and playful maps, is contour line maps. So you can have so many styles for contour line maps, and I'm just going to be showing you one of them. This is a 2D map, basically, kind of rendered in 3D, so I can navigate in 3D. And I'm going to show you how to turn it in 3D. So basically what we're going to do here is first elevate these polygons based on the information that they have. So these contour lines, I converted them to polygons, keeping the attributes on how high they are. And I can then use that information to elevate these polygons, as you can see here. Next, I'm going to extrude these polygons. So in our API, we define this as a symbol. There are many ways to do this. But basically, I'm extruding them by the same height, and I'm also coloring them based on the elevation. And next, there is another symbol that it's called the water symbol, which renders the water kind of like with a realistic feeling. So you can see like the sun reflection, you can see the reflection of other objects in the water. And I like to play around with this mix of like adding realistic symbols and adding very schematic abstract symbols, or like adding reflections on materials, because I think in this case, for example, it's again one level that takes you into this, oh wow, I want to discover this map and I want to see what it's about. Right, and then maybe you want to add some labels. These are just examples, and also again as gimmicks, I added some 3D palm trees here. These are basically just points that have a 3D symbol, 3D model as a symbol. Right, so this would be another type of a map. And I could show you many others. So if you want to discover some more, there is, this website, little website that I have here. It's basically a place for myself to like kind of play around. It's loading kind of slow. And experiment in 3D with different ideas. And you can go and check it out and see like this example and these ones you already recognize, I guess, and yeah, like many others. And now as for the conclusions, as I was showing you in the first category of urban maps, there are a lot of visualization possibilities, and it's really up to you to decide which one you want to take to actually deliver your message. In some cases, it might be good to go very abstract. In some cases, it might be good to be like have a realistic visualization. It's all up to the message. And currently in 3D web cartography, there are many tools that allow you to do that. A second message that I want you to think about is there are so many influences for 3D cartography, and I'm sure it's absolutely the same for 2D cartography, but I work with colleagues, for example, that have a background in GIS and 2D cartography. I work with designers, and I work mostly with computer graphics people. And technology is really like pushing us forward. And it's really nice to be there and to kind of like think about, does this make sense? How could I combine this? How could I create an awesome feature out of this? And then, of course, there's like architecture and art and games and data visualizations and virtual and augmented reality. And I think the magic happens when we actually try to work with other people from these fields and see how we can take advantage of their techniques to deliver our message. And last but not least, this is an invitation, like you have my contact here, and this is an invitation to, if you want to work with me on this project that I started, feel free to write to me, or if you have any feedback or just know awesome examples of 3D maps, then just write to me. All right, and with this, my presentation comes to an end, and I think now it's time for questions.